Hey guys, it's Nemo and welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're going to be featuring the Tier 10 French heavy cruiser, the Henri the Fourth. Now this is such a good ship. She has the biggest cruiser guns in the game of any of the Tech Tree cruisers at 240mm, which means that her AP, armor piercing shells, pack an absolute punch to anything that's broadside to you. And her high explosive, when you couple it with IFHE, can penetrate 52mm of armor, which means that if a Stalingrad or a Moskva are bowing to you, you can give them a very, very hard time. Very bad day for them because you can punch through the 50mm of decking armor. That goes for many battleships in the game, including the likes of the Yamato. This is also the fastest cruiser in the game. You put the speed boost on her and you run the speed boost extension module, which allows your speed boost to run for, I think it's 4.5 minutes. It's around that. We'll be able to see that pop up when I use the consumable a bit later. It allows her to dodge and evade very well, and that's one thing that you want to do with this ship. You want to just stay out of the way. Her armor can be a bit squishy, especially if you turn side on. But that's not really how you play the ship side on. You want to play the ship trying to run. You want to suck people in, draw them towards your battleships, and you want to burn them down with your super IFHE, high explosive shells. That's the best way to play her. So what do we do with the Henri? Well, the first thing we do is we want to choose an anchor. Now an anchor is either a stationary cruiser like a Moskva or a Des Moines or something like that, or we want to go wide of our battleship, so you can use your battleship as an anchor. So as you'll see me here, as we're heading across at the start of the game, I'm just moving out as wide as I can. I'm going to go all the way out, hopefully get out towards that one line. The 1-2 line is a really good spot because you want to get on the flanks in the Henri, and you have the speed to be able to get there. You also have the speed to be able to relocate after you've finished farming on the flank to get back into the center where you can affect the battle. Now as you can see, I have a 13km surface detection, so her surface detection is not very good, but I'm not running the legendary module, which increases the accuracy of the guns, but it also increases the range of your detectability, which can be really, really bad in a ship like the Henri. As I said, she can be pretty squishy, especially if she's broadside, but you usually play her at range anyway. You know, she's got this massive range on her guns, upwards of 19km, as you can see here, 19.1km on the guns. So you sort of hang at that range. Anywhere between 17 and 19km, you're not really going to be targeted much, because of the nature of the ship, how fast she is and how you play her, where you're constantly moving back and forth and getting people to fluff their shots because they try to aim at you and then all of a sudden you're not there anymore, you're in a different position, and it's really, really difficult to play against when you're in any ship, I guess. I mean, what you want to, unless an aircraft carrier, but then again, as you can see here, we've got defensive fire. So because we've got the defensive fire consumable, we can pretty much protect ourselves, especially against a low tier carrier like a tier 8, which you will face. You can easily take squads out of the sky, and if they're running torpedo bombers, even a tier 10 aircraft carrier running torpedo bombers will find it hard to hit you in the Henri. Now this is pretty much what we do in the Henri. We stay here, we farm, we see this eye over here, and we're just going to make him have a bad day. We're going to hit him, and we're going to burn him, and we're going to stay at max range, or close to max range. Because then he has to make a decision. Is he going to fire at us, and is he going to hit us, or is he going to hit what he can hit at a closer range? So as you can see, we've got a fire on him. We've already got 3 fires burnt, which is really good. And as you can see there, my detected, I always run priority target, so then I know if somebody's shooting at me. Yeah, he gets a good shot there. I mean, it's a guy from FFD. FFD are a Hurricane clan, so I'm expecting them to be relatively good with their accuracy, even playing against Henri's. But, in saying that, the Henri gets even better when you lose health. And that is because of AR. Now, if you are running one of the Henri brothers, which only the French can get, you get an increased and enhanced AR, which means that your ship gets even better the more damage that you take, because you obviously fire faster. Now you can see this other Iowa here is trying to pull back behind the island, but I can still see him, and because I can still see him, I'm just going to sit here and farm him. Now someone's pinging me, and I'm not sure what they're pinging me about, but if you see an Henri out here on the flank, you don't need to ping the Henri, he's probably out there doing his job, and as you can see, I am out here just burning down these Iowas. Now I've also got my battleship division mates out here in their republics. We decided to go out in a French division in this battle. I played a couple of months ago now, this battle. And realistically, you shouldn't see battleships out here where they are, but there was a reason they were out here, a couple of reasons. One, they were coming out here with me, we were going to start and hit up the flank and go up the side there. And two, the Republic only has 32mm of armour. So what you were going to see happen to both these guys in the next couple of minutes is what happens to ships when they push in against IFHE spamming cruisers against a 32mm armor ship. So it's pretty ugly. I mean, what happens to these guys in a couple of minutes is just whoa. It actually makes me rethink about, should I be here on the flank? I'm going to leg it. I'm going to move. And but still, what we do is so they've both decided to push in. So I'm going to come up with them at the moment and do a little bit of not on replay. You know, I'm going to push in, and usually you don't, like as I said, you don't really want to push in. You want to sit back and be able to farm. Now, I've been farming on this Iowa here from RANZN, and poor fella. Anybody who has to face it, like an Henri, I've seen Henris from extremely good clans, melt ships. Like Pell, for example, who's our best battleship player, I've seen him be melted in a Kurfürst against an Henri. It can get quite frustrating when you're playing against an Henri that knows what they're doing. So you don't really push up as much as you reverse into position. And you can reverse quite quickly because you have your speed boost. So set another fire there, and it's just a matter of who's going to get the kill. And I think it was actually Howie, one of my battleships there in front of me. Now pushing into a destroyer without a radar or without another destroyer can be really tough. But see, our Shima here was pushing up, but as he was pushing up there was a Worcester around, so sometimes, I don't know why, but sometimes you get these battles where you're in a destroyer and you spot the enemy destroyer, and then all of a sudden everybody starts farming you, but your team won't help you, and I don't know why it happens like that, but it does. So I hit the blue line here. The blue line can be your friend. If those of you who don't know what the blue line is, the border line, it can be your friend and it can be your enemy. And as we can see, I spoke about my battleships moving up just before into a position where they're about to get absolutely farmed. And this is why they came out with me to start with, because the Republic, as I said, with 32mm of armour, just can't tank anything very well. Any of the battleships really with 32mm armour just melt against IFHE. So as we can see, Howie goes down, just absolutely melted by both torpedoes, fires, and it's the Conqueror that burned him down. Well, what do you know? If the Conqueror's not burning you down in one battle, you're not playing against the Conqueror, are you? And then Mav here, Mav, Lethal Strike, as you can see on the screen, he faces the same fate. He just gets absolutely melted. So we lose two top tier battleships in a matter of a minute or so from the decision to push in, and that just absolutely got that side wrecked. So I decided that, well, it's time to go. Once you lose your anchor or your support in your Henri, it's time to relocate. As I said, it's a very quick ship. You can relocate very quickly, and you can see here the damage tanked is up over 1 million already, and a lot of it hasn't even hit me. It's just shots coming towards me, but because of my speed and maneuverability, so we'll have a look at the build that I run a bit later on. I do run the rudder shift on this instead of the propulsion mod, but the propulsion mod will help you as well. Either of those is viable to run. So we stay at range, we keep getting shot at. That's what you want to do. If they're shooting at you, if the enemy is shooting at you and missing, and they're going to spend 1.2, nearly 1.3 million damage on you, then that's 1.3 million damage that is not going to hit one of your other ships. So really, you're doing your job in multiple ways. Big hit there from the Conqueror. I mean, in the Conqueror you fire high explosive and you're bound to get damage. Whereas if you fire the armor piercing as much, and it doesn't really do as much. Broadside stuff, yeah, it can really rock broadside stuff, but you want to really be firing high explosive in the Conqueror, especially when you can pen or penetrate as much armor with your high explosive as you can with your armor piercing. So we're going to farm on the Conqueror. One thing that Conquerors do very well is they burn you down. One thing that Conquerors also do very well is they burn very easily, and it's again because of that 32mm of armor. So they might be able to start a lot of fires, but they also take a lot of fires, and it can be quite frustrating when you're playing the Conqueror and you're just getting melted because you're the one that's supposed to be melting people. But the Henri, fast melter. That's what she does. She moves fast and she melts stuff down because we've got that 52mm of penetration while running IFHE on the high explosive shells. So even though we've got all the caps here, our team decides that it's a good time to start dying. It's always the way. Every time you have all the caps, you've got a ship advantage. I don't know why, but instead of setting up defensively to prepare to defend your caps, your team decides that they have to charge the enemy one at a time. Always happens. So we're going to try and get on the Yamato here, just get some more damage. It's looking like the game is going to end. It should end, and it should end with quite an easy win. But World of Warships. Everybody decides that it's better to just start dying. And this guy from FFD in the Iowa, he's just been getting around and annoying everyone the whole time. One thing I did talk to a guy from UMP45. So UMP45 are another Hurricane clan, and I said, how do you get to Unicum? How do you get really good? And he said, well, 1, pick a good division, mate. And he said, 2, stay alive. And so this is what you can see from here, from this Iowa, from FFD doing. He was moved around and he was staying alive, but then one of the guys from Aegis 7 there has a good shot on him and gets him down. Still, the team is slowly dying away. This is the other way that you can play the Henri. Now, the guns aren't flat like Russians, but they aren't archy like Americans. But if you choose an island that has low enough elevation, like the island here in front of me, you can sit behind an island and you can absolutely farm. Now, when we talk about farm, we're talking about farming damage. So you can hit this Yamato as long as he stays spotted, and I do not know what our Shimmer up there is doing, but he gets secondary battery killed by Yamato. If a Shima is secondary battery killed by Yamato, he has definitely blown a sand shoe really badly. I can't tell you how badly out of position he is if he has done that. The bread and butter of the Shimakaze is its torpedoes. You know, it just fires a whole heap of them. Yes, it has got a buff to its alpha strike on its guns, but still, you're not going to go and do that at point blank to a Yamato. You don't fire fast enough. Your shells don't fire hard enough. You haven't got heavy enough shells. So we want to keep this guy spotted. Now the shimmer would have kept him spotted, and I would have been able just to keep hitting and hitting him. Now if you have a look at the minimap, we do have the enemy shimmer has last been spotted on the G line over at the 1-2, but we don't know where he is until now. The cap flips. As you can see, the A cap is starting to flip, so we know where he is. So I know that I'm safe from an enemy torpedo strike. So I can move around. Usually I would run hydro in this ship, because if you do get spotted, you can get torped. You do play on the flank a lot. A lot of enemy shimmers will also play on the flank, where they send torps down the flank to try and kill you in the Henri or in the Hindenburg or whatever you're in. But in this current meta, the AA and the defensive AA is what you want to run, especially with all the aircraft carriers around it, the prevalence of aircraft carriers. Although I did call it, I said when Russian battleships came out, they would drop off, and aircraft carriers have dropped off a bit at the moment, especially with both ranked up at the moment and Russian battleships. So I'd still take it. Anyway, we get a win. I don't have the post-battle results screen there for you, but I did top that battle quite easily. A lot of damage was done, and that's what you want to see. So let's have a look at our modules. We want to run all premium consumables as usual. We're going to go with the main armaments mod 1 to protect our guns, because your guns are your bread and butter. We're going to go with the engine boost modification if you have it. If you don't have it, any of those three are viable. We're going to go with the aiming systems mod 1, because you're always firing at long range. The tighter the grouping on your shells, the better. You can run AA mods 1 if you're a bit worried about aircraft carriers, but I don't find it useful. Now I run the steering gears for a little bit more maneuverability. The propulsion mod is very good as well, especially for that duking back and forth. Now I'm running concealment because you really have a bad concealment, so if you run a concealment you will get it down to 13 kilometers, but your legendary module for accuracy is also viable, especially at the long range. And then main battery reload, because you want to be able to fire as fast as you can. You can't fire very fast as it is. Captain skills, priority target as our number 1. We want to know how many is shooting at us so we can move and turn away if we have to. We're going to go expert marksman secondly, so we can get those big guns turning as quick as we can. Superintendent, because you want more speed boost, you want more main battery reload, and you want more AA. We have the concealment expert to try and get it down as good as we can. You can swap that with inertia fuse high explosive. I'd run inertia fuse high explosive, because then you get the 52mm of penetration. Then we're going to run the demolition expert, because that'll counteract the IFHE, allow you to set more fires. And then as you can see here, that's my Charles Henri Honore. He's not my very good Honore captain, but he will be my Henri captain, and those guys are very good for running in the Henri or even in your French battleship line. So my Honore brothers will be French battleships and French cruisers. Anyway guys, this is such a good ship. I love playing it. I've got over 100,000 damage average in it. It's such a good ship to play. It's a fun ship. It can be a bit of a selfish ship. If your team is losing, you may not do too well, but if your team is losing, you're probably not going to do too well anyway. So all in all, top ship, absolute top ship, fun to play, really good if you definitely know how to play it properly, and definitely not a bad ship for this current ranked season. Anyway guys, thanks for joining me, and stay safe out there.